Early one morning, as I don't know exactly what you're doing, but you're somewhere around your little idyllic village, it is suddenly invaded by lizard folk. These swarm into your village. They come in, a variety of different forms, like carrying these big weapons with spikes on them, wearing leather armor, and they're carrying also bronze weapons. Those of you who live in the savannah experience a very similar calamity. In your case, sometime in the night, you're attacked. And it is not lizard folk for you, but rhinoceros people dressed in furs and wearing leather and bronze armor. And you also note that they're carrying these shiny bronze weapons that you've never seen before. Ayame, you're an Anubian from a species of jackal people. You probably live in maybe desert caves, something like that. Perhaps you're a bit different.
I was thinking something like that, holes in the ground or something, yeah. Well, I would imagine if it's at nighttime, is it solid nighttime or sort of duskish?
It could be dusk.
Okay. Well, then in that case, I would probably be helping to settle any young. As a protector, my job is to protect the younger members of the tribe. So I'd probably be trying to settle them, get them to sleep, but still keeping a watch for anything trying to attack, at least.
I imagine that you would be especially distraught to see the young kind of abandoned and left behind as you and the others are bound and taken away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be trying until I absolutely couldn't to protect them and keep them safe.
Yeah,
and if they're being left behind or killed, I would absolutely hate that.
Yeah, these rhino folk are vicious, and if you just keep fighting against them, they probably just knock you out. If they decide that you're sort of young enough and strong enough that you fit the bill, they probably just have to knock you out to stop you from fighting them. You move through these narrow streets between the huts, and you're led into a large cave in one of these cliff faces, and thrown into cells that are kind of dug into the rock within. And there are huge numbers of captives here already that you join. All kinds of species again, and some of them look like they've been here for weeks, maybe even months. And this is where you meet each other.
Yeah, I think Ayame is just angry. I think you can tell pretty clearly from the stance that he takes at the doors or the bars of whatever sort of enclosure we're in. I kind of situate myself near the front. Anytime Vindaros kind of steps in to stop somebody from getting hurt, I'm kind of doing the same. He's very much still leaning into that protector role. Definitely also a bit bruised, a bit battered. But yeah, I think the main aura that anyone is going to get is just unyielding rage.
Sometimes when these like hyena folk or rhino folk sort of open the cage door to sort of push somebody else in, I imagine they have to like fight you off from kind of having a crack at them as they're...
Oh yeah, I'm definitely just going for it. There's no like thought, it's just attack. Any sort of chance I get, I'm going for it. Same thing with like, even if I can reach out and try and swipe at people's ankles or something as they go by, kind of try and get that like Achilles tendon at the back.
Oh.
Anything I can do to try and hurt somebody out there who's against us, I'm down to try it.
Yeah, you like trip one of these hyena folk guards over as it's kind of walking by. It's like like falls over and you've just like cut this like massive gash in its heel.
Can I kind of mock their like sort of chittering laughter sort of sound as it falls?
It kind of lands on the ground. It's like clasping its ankle, and it sort of looks back at you and just sort of loses its grin real quick as you're like mocking it.
Yeah, one of these like flipping the bird without actually doing that, and with more pain, just for fun.
One of these rhino folk guards comes in, and it's just like, you don't know what it's saying, but essentially like, get up, kind of like hoists this like Hyanese grunt off the ground, and it kind of like limps away while this like guard is sort of like mocking it as well.
I want to see them all knocked out of pegs, but I'll take what I can get.
They probably keep their distance from the cage now.
Good.
I think he's kind of maintained the same role that he's always sort of had within his tribe. He just finds it's now a very weird, strange tribe where he can only speak to half of the people. But other than that, he's just chugging along. He's doing all right. Maybe checking on a few people as well. Seeing Reti do the same. He'll talk to anyone who Ayame can talk to. cover the other half. Just making the rounds, making sure that everyone's at least motivated enough that even if they're hungry and we don't have anything to feed them with at the moment, then, they're at least motivated to go to the castle with us. Maybe tell them that we found it. Try and, perk up some of the people. He is feeling pretty good now. He's had some successes and some failures, and I think he's learned lessons from both. He's learning the art of diplomacy and trying to play really, really annoying games of charades all the time. So he's learning, but he's basically doing the same thing he was doing before back at home with these new strange people and this very, very odd group. And he's been enjoying it. He likes doing this, keeping people safe. He finds that having that sort of purpose is helping him through this really, really annoying situation, this really strange, frustrating scenario that they've all found themselves in. But yeah, I think he's ready to get the hell out of here if possible, but he wants to make sure everyone is either able to come with him or is at least happy and established here before that happens. And also finding a way out is going to be the next challenge, right? So there's that as well. So I think that he's trying to learn from the people around him a little bit in terms of the soft skills, definitely. Interacting with new people is a bit odd for him. He's always a bit sort of off kilter talking to new people. And he's trying to learn the, let's just say, polite ways of interacting. He's been a little awkward. But in terms of his actual skill, I think the skirmishes that he has seen here and the fact that he nearly died have made him want to be better. He wants to protect this group of people that clearly need it for the tribe back home, and look after the people who have been around him and looking out for him as well as he's been looking out for them at the same time. It's kind of a give and take, I guess. But he's also very concerned about making a new way of life here until they can figure out a way to go home. The loss of the people he knew around him and the fact that he couldn't do anything about it have really hurt, I think is the best way to describe it. He's really looking for a way to make sure that never happens again. And if someone wishes to do this new group harm, he's willing to do anything to stop it. He's getting a lot less squishy, so that's nice.
And he also picked up cartographer's tools proficiency.
I kind of thought about it as in the time he's been here and trying to establish watches and looking out for this group in kind of coordinating, and through multiple games of charades, he started to rediscover an ability that he never really explored before. But he did once sort of dabble in drawing little maps, and sort of even in just the dirt around his old home, he could kind of scribble out an area where they might be vulnerable to attack. And I feel like that could come in handy when he can't speak to certain groups of people, and trying to share where groups could be established around this new stone building that they're living in, for all intents and purposes. Maybe squatting is a better word. But yeah, I think he's starting to develop an ability there in terms of creating maps and drawing the locales. And I think part of that was trying to create the trails that the group know around the castle, how they got from the beach to the castle, the river, the cave, all of that and sort of trying to build that into something that's useful. So, yeah. And I think that that's going to come in handy. And part of his development is trying to bridge the gaps where we might not have people who are particularly adept at certain things. Trying to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities within the group in that sense. Same as Vindaros, since level 1, they haven't changed. I think he's still very much a highly protective person. He's just sort of diverted that from his tribe initially to this new, very strange, disjointed. I don't want to say like separated or unaligned, but in terms of language barrier, it's very different, and everyone's a bit separated into groups. Tribe that they've now had to form in this new situation. So I think he's still very much that, protective, almost to his own detriment kind of character. His number one thing is, if everyone else gets out, he will take the hits. He will, if he has to go down, he'll go down. And even if that's, it's a risk he's willing to take. I think there's a bit of, I see him as having quite a lot of sadness behind him and regret that he couldn't do more to protect his first tribe. So he's going to do even more this time to prevent something bad from happening again. I think his biggest flaw is that he has a very one-track mind. He'll set himself on somebody or something, and it takes him a minute to kind of realize, oh shit, maybe that's not what I should be doing right now. And he's also, again, kind of tying into that, he'll go down fighting, but that also means that he might be leaving others exposed to something in his absence, if that makes sense.
So both
like
the Vindaros
his own thing.
and Yao Mei are pretty headstrong.
Yeah, I think we're kind of, I kind of see us as just like running into things and not thinking quite so much about it first. And again, we'll kind of take the brunt of anything up front for major hits. We'll try and keep the others back from it where we can. I've got an extra attack. I think I accidentally picked the ranger one because they all looked exactly the same. I hope that doesn't cause problems. That's about it. I also have one more superiority die to use, so I now have 5 of those, I believe.
Sweet.
No, I still have 4. So that's really my only change. Just the extra attack.
That'll make all the difference though.
Oh, it helps. I'm finally up to 2, and I can throw in a random third with an action surge. Sparring with Vindaros every morning helps a lot. I'm getting quicker with this bronze. I think it's just the same as before, keeping his group safe and making sure that no one on his team comes to any harm or too much harm. He's happy to put his life on the line to keep everyone else safe, and he doesn't really mind what happens to him as long as everyone else lives. I did improve his wisdom by 2 points, so we now have a +4 on survival, which is going to help us for navigation. But other than that, I don't think anything else has changed for me. So I feel like his improvement there is mainly from his navigation, practicing that consistently and trying to get better so he doesn't misdirect the party, trying to keep track of where they're at, what they've been doing, where the next location is, and also studying the maps that he's found along the way, adding to the one that he got from, what was it, Captain Zaglo?
Yep.
Zaglo's map, but also these new ones that we've picked up more recently have kind of aided him in sort of understanding the location a bit more and navigation in a more general sense. I don't think he would consider himself a hero. I think he's just relying on his previous skills when it comes to protecting and wanting to continue that. And leading people in a bad direction, for example, would be a very poor example of keeping the group safe. Especially since we have nearly 200 refugees relying on us to do things and help keep them safe in the long run as well. And I'd also say that he's at least starting to develop a good bond with the people he's traveling with. He takes a while to kind of warm up. I think I know he's my character, but I almost get the vibe that he's starting to feel more comfortable being emotionally vulnerable with these people, having, been looked after by this group time and time again in various ways.
Yep.
And feeling that as we kind of learn each other's languages, we're understanding each other better, and between all of us, there's more of an agreed bond, even if it's not spoken. At level 7. My main thing is that I actually got 2 more maneuvers, and I had the ability to swap out one, so I had to get rid of an old one and replace it with a new one. I've picked my maneuvers. I now have a disarming attack, so I have the ability to disarm my opponent, or I think it allows me to let them drop an item that they're holding. I also have a fainting attack, and since the rally maneuver hasn't really worked for me very well, I've actually swapped that out with something called precision attack, which allows me to increase my rolls on attacks.
Ooh, nice.
So I actually have a greater chance of hitting things. I think throughout the battles that we've had, I've sort of had a few ideas, and in my morning calisthenics, I've been able to try and practice them, and I think I've come up with a way to make that practical in battle. I have yet to try them out, of course, but I think, I've got a pretty good idea of how they might work in a combat sense, now that we've been in a few combat situations so far. I also have one extra ability, which is called Know Your Enemy. So if I spend a minute at least interacting with a creature outside of combat, then I get to learn a little bit of information about them. So our lovely GM maybe ask questions such as their strength, dex, con, or armor class in comparison to mine, as well as their AC, current hit points, and class levels.
Ooh.
All right.
Again, that's in comparison to my own, so it's either about the same, higher, or lower. I think right now I'm definitely in planning mode. I'm trying to think ahead as much as I can about how we're going to safely move people. And after that, once we get there, how is this fight going to go? What can we do? And from that point, once we have a safe place, where do we go from there? Definitely trying to think 10 steps ahead at this point in time, and doing a lot of planning in his head. I think most of the talking that he's done in the council meetings today were all sort of things that have been rattling around in his head. So Eyame will catch Reti's glance at some point and just sort of really, really deep nod. He's not going to say anything out loud, but you can tell he's very grateful. Even as he sits on the floor and he's just like, as soon as the ants scatter, Ayame's howling. He's really excited, and then as soon as they go, he's just like. So he's just been sitting on the floor this whole time. I assume we sort of lead into a bit of festivity, but also there's quite a bit of action still to come for, setting up for at least a couple of nights of some sort of temporary situation.
Yeah, the rest of the tribe gradually haul all of their possessions onto the grassy hilltop and begin erecting tents and lean-tos and making fires and sending people out to scout the lands and think about food and that sort of thing.
As sort of everyone stops talking with us and starts sort of dispersing, Eyame will again find a moment where it's just the group of us and the mouse folk. They're welcome to join us as well. And he'll just sort of thank everyone for, keeping him alive for a start, but also for teaming up, working together, and he'll sort of finish a very short speech by saying, "Thank you. You're all true brothers of mine. I just hope there's less action now. I'm sick of it. I think I need a break."
Reti, you're an Archelon, a turtle folk. You probably live near a water source, like a river or a lake maybe. I imagine in maybe stone huts, perhaps with roofs of grass and branches. Maybe you can tell me.
When this happens, Reti's exploring around the waterfall that's near his idyllic village. Just going for some swims, jumping off the top and having a good time, just in general. Reti is an Archelon. He's like a big turtle. He's not too tall, but he's sort of stout and kind of strongish looking. He looks pretty young, so his skin's sort of smoothish compared to some of the older Archelons that you might have seen. And he's carrying this really big, sort of hefty shell with these really, really massive eyes. That's the only photo I could find. So you see, while he does look sort of young and I guess something sprightly, the shell itself is kind of chipped and scarred in places, and it kind of looks like it's been sort of pre-used and pre-loved. And he's got a few scars on his hands and feet and stuff like that. So on the journey, from when he got taken, he pretty much looked in shock the entire time on the boat, going from this sort of person who's sort of carefree and this adventurous sort of guy and being thrust into this new dark reality. It was very, very quiet and reserved. But when they sort of get tossed into this cell, he looks around for other people that might be from the jungle and tries to sort of talk to them and learn a bit more about what's going on. Did this happen to everyone? How long have you been here? And just try and find out what he can.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely speak to Twig. You guys would both speak the sort of common language of the jungle.
Cool. What's going on?
All the people got taken from Is it just us in the cell, or is it other?
Yeah, there's hundreds of people around, but the four of you have kind of been thrown in. You're just next to each other.
When Reti gets back, he sort of goes around to try, I guess, help some people to check on the injured along with the priests and see to some of the people that may be more exhausted or hungry or injured from that initial sort of fight we had when we arrived. And I guess for Reti, the way he's lived, I guess, most of his life is sort of solitary. He generally kept to himself, not, I guess, unsocial, but more in terms of he didn't really concern himself with others too much. No one really depended on him, and he didn't really feel responsible for anyone. But the more time he's spending here, he's starting to feel he's I guess, has a responsibility for this herd, to try and do everything he can. As one of the people in the group that's, I guess, more capable, he's really finding that he's, I guess, more concerned and trying to put in more for them to help them sort of benefit themselves. So he's also looking around. He's gone to look for some mushrooms around, see if there's any medicinal ones he can apply to salves or anything. He found some in there, identified some more end of a cap and whatnot. But yeah, he's just sort of digging around. I guess foraging for some things and seeing if he can hold on to them, the ones that look more interesting.
I think in Reti's, he had a long walk a few days ago, spent foraging, and while he didn't get much chance to actually, he didn't really find very much. He had a lot of time to sort of think and spent some of that time probably in meditation as well. I guess accustoming himself and getting acclimated to this new environment and the forest around. And I think he would have probably been able to sort of work on himself and figure out some of these new spells that he's itching to try. Well, I think for a day or two, he was actually kind of, obviously there's been a lot of tragic circumstances in the last couple of weeks and before that, but it almost sort of slowed down there for a little bit. They had a few days to learn languages and sort of get set up, and there wasn't as much of a stress of the immediate sort of we need food and water. So he was almost starting to relish, I guess, just being around in the forest. But then, obviously learning that this other group has encountered some really, really hard times, and now he's sort of just focusing on that and saying, all right, we need to do what we can to try and save these guys, and especially if there's any Archelons there, because they all went with the other group, so he's hoping to find some of his brethren and do his best for them. You know, even though he's not in a sentence by choice, he's still got this like really big curiosity about the world, and he wants to sort of explore everything and make the most of however long he spends here. He's really lamenting the fact that he didn't get to. He forgot to jump off into those waterfalls and the dreadful hideout. So he's got those down on his bucket list as a return visit.
That's right. That was what he was doing when we first met him.
Yeah,
jumping into a waterfall.
And he was just a bit too distracted this time around to make the most of it. So
a good thing, because there were really piranhas in that water.
That's free dinner. What do you mean? I think he's always been sort of a bit solitary, and I guess that's sort of come out even more recently with the language barrier being what it was. But we'll see if that changes now. With this pen that he's got. But what has changed, I think, is that over the past few weeks, he's become like really loyal to this group of friends, even not being able to communicate with half of them. He knows that they're looking out for him, like really no one has done before, and he can't help but sort of try and return that as much as he can. I think his core belief is that sort of like this imbalance of the world, that being taken as slaves, and then all this imbalance that's in a sense, it's sort of the way of nature. He's sort of seen Druids and his tribe in the past try and take it as their responsibility to sort of protect and preserve the status quo. And Reti's sort of more of the opinion that like nature doesn't need protecting. It's the way of the world to be in this sort of constant flux, and some of these changes are more drastic than others. But in the end, it's all sort of part of nature's will. The gods will sort it all out in the end. It's all part of their plan, I guess. I think he still tends to sort of, as I was saying, sort of be this like solitary and introspective sort of creature. And I think helping out doesn't really come as naturally to him as it does some of the other people in the group. So he has to sort of remind himself that like the plights of other beings, matter too. A part of him sort of feels that if he can take care of the slaves, and he can just leave Ascentus and go back to sort of what was, and not worry about all these other groups because they're not his people. So he's trying to sort of keep himself grounded and remind himself that these guys, these people matter as well. I guess because of that, he feels like he was never really like meant to be a hero. He was just sort of doing his own thing. The other one, I think, is a bit sort of the opposite of Eyame and Vindaros. He's a bit too hesitant and too overthinking, which you probably saw as we arrived to the Dreadful's hideout last time, and he's like, no, we can't deal with this. He's very fond of being alive, and he wants to keep it that way. So he's sort of a bit hesitant. If his friends are there to guide him though, and sort of temper that sort of unconfidence, then I think, I guess with their encouragement, it sort of tempers that a bit, and he can work with it. Reti's got some new spells that he's pretty keen to try out. Some of his old ones are finally starting to do stuff, which is nice. Elemental Weapon is one of the two spells that he can two new spells that he can cast out. I like to think he's been practicing with his shillelaghing and trying to make it like pack that extra little punch. Then Conjure Animals is the other one that he's learned recently, and I think it's a good time for Reti to introduce everyone to Patrick, his pet rock, that he's been tenderly nurturing over the past few weeks, and I think Reti's finally decided that he's ready to move on to living.
Hello, Patrick.
Patrick does not respond.
Yes.
Well, he saw this very, very fancy-looking quarterstaff last session. So it's definitely power to a degree. He's chasing after the greatest artifacts that he can find. But obviously, he does want to help out these people in Verdolate as well, and make sure that everyone, all the refugees are safe and cared for. So it's a bit of everything. I like to think that as they were moving through the Grimbower, Reti got to have a closer look at some of these moving trees, and he thinks he's ready to sort of try and incorporate that into his own magic and see if he can do the same thing with mushrooms. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I think he was just going through the Grimbower, inspecting those the tree spawn and some of those those mushrooms that attacked us and trying to study them and see how they moved and see how they worked. And he's got some ideas about how to, construct his own ones now with a healthy helping of magic as well. It's all about what you learn, what you take away from the experience. So.
A hint of stinky fish.
Seeing all the people in Verdelaide sort of ecstatic after getting rid of the Grimbow has definitely motivated him and kept him on the path of righteousness. He likes feeling needed. The other thing as well, I guess, having that the Aberrant released, not so much released, but when he walked into the room and sort of got his mind attacked, it sort of reminded him of his own mortality, I guess. So he still feels the need to keep on getting stronger and not be so susceptible to these attacks on his mind. He's got some access to some fancy new looking spells that he's keen to try out. There's two in particular. There's a few others, but you see his skin looking a little barky at times. He's just wandering around. You're like, was it always like that? And then at other times, he's got this soft glow to it.
I was going to say, do you have some dried out skin?
Yeah, no. Being in the forest for so long, it is somewhat moist, but not quite as much as the one I used to live in. So yeah, it's just some new spells that he's keen to try out. I like to think that he spent a bit of time in meditation and studying the ways of the forest. I think in particular that sort of looking around the Grimbower as well, even though it was quite a while ago, and then seeing the spirit tree, he spent some time sort of meditating and learning about these sort of different environments and how all these different beings and individuals use nature to their benefit. And it's given him his own ideas. He's looking at his nails in a new light. He's like, it's a bit bittersweet almost. They were forced into this land, not by their own choice, and despite that they've sort of built it up to almost become their home. And now, just when things are starting to look somewhat okay, they're being forced off to a new place. On the other hand, it does sound like this place isn't the best. It's not where he'd choose to settle. So he's keen to travel with all the remnants of the party and the expedition and find somewhere new to live, or at least take them to safety before he goes off to find the rest of the Archons that are missing. I know he's going to go sit down with It's like a lie down for a bit.
Yeah.
But Twig, you're a Tarsian. You come from a species of Tarsia-like people who live in trees, in like tree houses. Twig, what are you doing when these lizard folk swarm into your village?
Twig is out gathering special berries for the ceremony that he has to later perform with his shaman master. So yeah, he's picking the best berries.
What ceremony is it?
A funerary one. Twig is a fairly small Tarsian. He's a meter tall, young guy, and he's been quite shaken by this whole thing. His teacher, his mentor, was killed, I think, in front of him.
Yep.
And he's been learning from this guy for he's gotten to know him for about like a year or so. Really looks up to him. He's sort of been learning like various ceremonies and shamany things. And he tried to play dead, actually, when they came to take him away with Sprung. So he's not the fighting sort, but he is a very curious guy. So in the cell, he's sort of looking around and asking other Tarsians or anyone who can understand, do you know what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, and your master would have put up a good fight, I imagine, being a spellcaster. But yeah, unfortunately, ultimately fell to the lizard folk. And these other Tarsians that are there, they are just as scared as you are, and unfortunately not able to tell you anything. Nobody's given them any information either.
You might also notice a big elephant folk getting in the way if there's any guards trying to swipe at you or like push you in. Or the grunt.
But nodding, much nodding ensued.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, actually, they would separate the carnivores from the herbivores and the omnivores, but I think that Twig is the only carnivore, and I'm going to say that they don't. They just assume that you're a herbivore, so you're in.
I'd chomp on that lizard. Twig was feeling like, oh man, like we gotta trying to think like of a solution to try and get everyone fed and watered and kind of anxiously thinking about this by the fire, and sort of absentmindedly he had a little cut on his finger, and it was kind of bleeding. So with a little bit of blood, he started drawing on like a piece of bark, that was nearby, and sort of out of that, he was thinking about, how do I like get some fish out the stream? How do I, hook those in? And he found that he was making some sort of weird and interesting rune. And he can't wait to use it when the time comes. Because it seems to have almost an ominous sort of power. And I mean, I guess he sort of felt the energy of the fight as well, like, and he kind of he was energized. And yeah, like in terms of motivation, I mean, I think he's just trying to find like food and shelter and such, but he's also very curious. So Twig he was sort of learning languages and trying to get his spells in order during his downtime these past couple of days, and sort of thinking about the importance of communication. It's really sort of spurred him to maybe spend a little bit more time thinking about that and how to help that along. And so I guess he's had the time to think about what he wants to learn next in that way. Yeah, I guess sort of playing around with a bit of rune. He's moved on to using maybe some charcoal or something, or some soot to inscribe the runes rather than his blood. Yeah, I guess like this bit of rest has led him to be able to sort of feel a bit more curious about the new place that he is in, and sort of think about how things die and decay as he's sort of been exposed to more of that, and how different it is here compared to his jungle lands. Yeah, a fair bit of that, which is both awful, but oh so interesting. I'm still a very curious and a very curious young Tarsian, and maybe also becoming a little bit more shrewd, perhaps. Twig is very like he is pursuing knowledge. He's so curious. He wants to really understand the world, and especially death. It's something that he was sort of learning about before, but yeah, he's sort of understanding more about necromancy. He feels a bit of conflict between what he was taught and the sort of order, the right the orderliness of life and death is being sort of muddled up by him learning necromancy.
So he's conflicted because he's interested in necromancy, but he's like,
oh, this is so taboo.
it might offend the Mem, the god of rot.
Yeah, it might offend, his sort of obsession with death and knowledge and trying to understand it, and like his pursuit of knowledge can, I think overwhelm things such as ethics or compassion.
Nice. What is your alignment? Do you have an alignment? I think I said like nobody had to pick an alignment.
Chaotic good. So far. No, he's a good guy. He's just, a bit keen. Twig's got 2 new spells. And one of them's pretty exciting, and the other one's really useful. So, just...
Fireball being the exciting one?
Yeah. Yes. Well, he just recently got that soul reaping staff and has been, feeling inspired by meeting Tristan, and he got excited when he used that fire on the trolls and sort of got creative with fireball. How do I make it bigger? How do I make it stronger? Power! I don't know, like seeing Tristan, the strong necromancer, wizened and feared. Twig has been creating, mixing some potions. Well, not potions, but he's got 3 new spells. 2 new spells. Yeah. Tasha's Mind Whip, Hypnotic Pattern, and Animate Dead, which is why he's been so curious about the Owlfolk skeletons.
Yeah, well, you having now learned this spell and written this spell, you would definitely feel pretty confident that you could raise these bones as skeletons. In case you.
He took some time out to sort of concentrate on sort of writing down his runes, and through that he was like sort of messing with some bones, getting that bone dust. Then he like cut himself a bit. I don't know. Right. It was a whole journey. But he found like, I don't know, these things like made like a nice mix. He's like pretty interested. He's like, I don't know, enjoying this power and wanting to like get a reputation, I guess, like as a powerful wizard and a fair but firm leader, perhaps. Ooh, he's gotten some brand spanking new spells. He's got his first 4th level spell, which is Black Tentacles. Beware any creature triggers.
What does it do?
Holds them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, exactly. And he also has Stinking Cloud, which I hope
have a rotten egg for.
Yes, and a couple of other spells which I need to get some components for. So Summon Undead, and also Haste. I think I was, thinking about creepy stuff.
As usual.
Yeah, like I feel like, the Black Tentacles are kind of like the pinnacle of my current artistic endeavors. And I think, I got Stinking Cloud from a rune, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
Mm. And
I forgot where you even got that rune from.
Yeah. I think I found it in the tomb. Yeah, and yeah, it feels like kind of spurred to help his friends in battle with haste to give us the upper hand. I think you'll realize that maybe he shouldn't be asking that many insensitive questions. He'll like suddenly like come he'll realize that, and he'll like leave Jasper alone a bit. But he's like certainly very his interest is piqued by the amount of undead and creepy cloud spirits, and I don't know, everything about this land is like, yeah, get him excited. Twig might be sitting next to them, but he's like kind of like recapping everything really excitedly, like, oh yeah, and then when he came, and then when you raised the dead, they're like, oh my god, that was amazing. And then
Ayame goes, I know nothing. So this is a brand new story to him. For most of it, anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, then you went. I mean, I didn't even see you, but then you went down, and then oh my god, and then he like goes off to like someone else to like to like recount the same story. We make an excellent team.
And Vindaros, you're a Macedonian from a race of proud elephant people, and you are nomadic. Your people are nomadic.
Oh, just prior to being attacked, I'd probably be just sitting outside, similar to a yurt structure, and just either smoking like a pipe that he's carved out, or working on his next piece, just like whittling away at some. For him, it's a little piece of wood, but it's probably like a massive log. No, they're just whittling away, just gathering some thoughts, I guess. I would say maybe a little figurine he's trying to carve for a family member, or a jewelry piece. That's one of his. He likes to just carve out and it's sort of like meditating.
I guess his meditative piece is very seriously disturbed when one of these rhino people sort of storms over to him and just like snatches this thing from his hand and just like tosses it down in the dirt.
100%. He'll be up on his feet and fighting back. Are they very much outnumbered as well?
Yeah, you're outnumbered, and they have these bronze weapons. There's not much you can do ultimately. Maybe they would be like, this one's a strong one.
He'll be definitely putting up a fight until he couldn't anymore. Either subdued or exhausted and overran.
Well, yeah, ultimately he is unfortunately subdued and taken off into the night along with many of his people, while the rest are killed or left to die.
Vindaros will be visibly bloodied. He's put up a good, a fight until he was exhausted. So he'll be, bruised and bleeding. He would be keeping his head down and his ears open, just taking in his surroundings as he's walking through the village. I would say he's very much a simple mastodon, not from any royal family or nobles. He likes to go about with things his own way, and at this stage he'll just be definitely taking in his surroundings and just absorbing as much information. And if there's other mastodons with him, he'll be trying to keep them calm and just saying, don't put up a fight. It's going to unfold. We'll work this out. Vindaros will be sitting facing the fire with his shield in one hand and his split spear in the other, looking at it, trying to work out how he's going to repair it and fix it. And he's sort of finding that he's finding this energy within himself that he didn't knew existed within. He actually he's enjoying the fight, and he's enjoying that he never thought he would. Maybe there's other people from his tribe that are there, but this is sort of out of character for Vindaros. It was always that quiet, nomadic leader back home, but he's quite enjoying the fight at the moment. He's finding this little spark within him that he didn't know he had. And also what's motivating Vindaros is also getting a glimpse of the people that attacked his tribe and took those tasks from his fellow companions. Like, he wants to amend those and right those wrongs. I think Vindaros, while making the spears as well, sort of was doing a lot of just self-reflecting as well, and just trying to work out what's calling him, and just to try to put all these puzzle pieces together. What's driving him overall is actually the people that did harm to his village, to his common friends, but that still seems such a long way away. He's actually just taken a step back and he's like, how can we thrive now, and what can we do to survive, thrive, and then take that next step forward? So he's also, from that last ritual with Hembe, it's sort of fallen into place. He's sort of seen a doorway, a light at the end of the tunnel. He has direction now. So he stepped forward and he wants to accept that and take that challenge on. I would say, well, his two most defined would be his loyalty and his modesty. In saying that, I wouldn't say they've actually changed. I think they've just amplified. He was a gentle beast to begin with, but now with all these other pressures, it's just amplified those emotions and characteristics. He wants to stand up for the little guy, the one that's, that gets picked on by the bully. He wants to right those wrongs and make sure that they receive, their punishment, not to get away in this world like free will, doing whatever they want. I would say once he's made a decision, it's probably pretty hard to change his way of thought as well. For instance, with those, you would have seen it with the thistles. He was hungry, he knew it wasn't the right idea, and he still ate the thistles. Even though he probably knew it was wrong, but so sometimes when he has an idea in his head, it's hard to change his view. Yeah, he's becoming one with the spear, all that practice with the Yao Mei and so forth. So he's actually, that, and he's driven towards finding that evil entity, that darkness from that vision as well, that lingers in his mind. A couple of extra spells. He now has an extra attack.
And
I'm just wondering,
you have hold person as well, but you don't have the component because you gave it to Reti.
Correct. I didn't know that last time. Last session. He held on there for about 15 sessions. Which is fine. I'll say training and meditating and in prayer. Well, not so much prayer, but reflectance as well.
Does Vindaros pray to Vraka? Does he have a dialogue with his god?
I would say he does, so more so like a paladin, not so much as a cleric. So yes, he does definitely have dialogue, but I don't think he would actually recite prayers and so forth.
He doesn't kneel.
Using those, in particular, steed not believes, but it will greater benefit himself and the party to achieve that goal of removing the darkness. So that's what he's focusing on in the background. Not much has changed with Vindaros. He's also, I would say he's been actually spending a bit more time to himself, just trying to channel and just trying to find guidance from Rakar at the moment, because he knows there's a great dread that's approaching. So I believe with that, he also is channeling this aura of protection. So now you might have a safer feeling around Vindaros. So that's what's changed. A calming presence. I would say a calming presence. Yeah, I would say with that, trying to just reflect and trying to connect with Rakar. And just like some meditation. Yeah, definitely getting rid of this presence, this darkness, which he had a vision which was sent to him, which is very unsettling on different levels, and not knowing what it is and how dangerous it is, as well as what he saw it do to the village. That presence needs to be stopped. Vindaros at level 7 has picked up a relentless adventure feat.
Ooh.
Which is when you hit a creature from an opportunity attack, I can actually move half my distance immediately following that attack without causing an up attack.
Whoa.
Nice.
Which is quite handy, because that actually works quite well with my Polar Master feat, which is I can actually create an up attack if someone moves into my space. So automatically generating the up attack. Which rolls into that aura. I would say meditating with Hembe as well. So he's just realigning his targets now. He's just going to park Suzesu and just focus directly on the safety of these people. Finding, even though he found this place, he doesn't want to just survive, he wants to thrive, and they've tried that and they haven't achieved that. So the lands where Jefferson comes from sounds like a great opportunity to make their own and to actually thrive. So he's looking quite forward to that move. Like I mentioned, he's looking forward to this move, so he's trying to keep people's spirits high and trying to settle uneasiness around the camp, ones that might be fearful about moving. Vindaros definitely picks up Bron because he's still enlarged, he's massive. He gives him a big hug. Look at me, Bron!
Have you grown or something? I don't remember your hugs being this all-consuming.
It's a new diet I'm on. It's a movable diet. You should get onto it. Berries. Vindaros will actually make his way over to Eyame and just put his hand on his shoulder and just like lay on hands for 15 just to make him feel better. And at the same time, just call over Jefferson and get that tablet that they wrote the night before and just break it and just like throw it away.
You notice as you do, there's like a scrawled note at the bottom from Eyame that goes, "If I die, I'm sorry." And you just see it as it breaks. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
We needed that for next time, Vindaros.
Yeah, that's good writing materials.
We'll buy more.
This is what happens when like the Rosetta Stone is broken into 2 pieces.
That's how it happened.
Maybe that big rock on the hill, we can call that the Freedom Stone, where we won. It certainly was quite an adventure. Sometimes when you go searching for your home, you don't realize you're actually home.
Yeah.